Hello internet, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, otherwise known as Puggapillar across all my social platforms, or otherwise known as that guy who uploaded a general review of Spider-Man No Way Home at like 3:30 in the morning when I look dead, I look exhausted, and probably not the best time for me to film, honestly. I don't look the greatest. Aside from that, are you aware that you have clicked on a spoiler video? I'm going to be talking about the spoilers in regards to Spider-Man. I don't know where my home is anymore. I've lost my address. Please, I don't know how to get home. I have no way home. That's the name of the movie. It's a very long title, but I'm sure someone will be able to make an abbreviation. Is that the word? Abbreviation? I said in the general review, it is almost next to impossible to talk about this movie without talking about what happens in the movie. Because, in all honesty, the trailer only really shows you the first part of this movie. So this is my fair warning that you are about to be spoilt in, I think, roughly maybe 5 seconds. Okay, you're still here. Alright then. Well, I'm just going to start by doing the big reveal, and Mario and Luigi are in this movie. The two Mario brothers come together and they help out Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Now, being serious, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this movie and they are fucking awesome. Hey, you're the one that kept watching this video. If you're going to complain about spoilers, I gave you a fair warning. By now, everyone and their cat, dog, fucking goldfish knew that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were most likely going to be in this movie, though there were the deniers out there, and I would love to see what their face looks like currently. This movie is also highly regarded as Hollywood's worst kept secret, and yeah, it's pretty much right. What I can say about this movie straight off the bat without going into storyline details or that right now is that it is everything. If you're a Spider-Man fan, it is everything you want, and it is everything you will love. Let's talk about the performances for a second. We all know the villains that were in this. Dr. Octopus, I nearly said Doctor Strange. Green Goblin, Lizard, Electro, and Sandman. There is only 5 villains in this movie. There is not a 6th villain. There is no Sinister Six, it is just 5 villains. The main villains in this movie are Dr. Octopus, Electro, and Green Goblin. Meanwhile, the Lizard and Sandman actually take a back seat. I feel like a lot of people would have known that purely because of their marketing was just around those 3 top actors, and the Lizard and Sandman weren't really shown at all. But out of the 3, I think Willem Dafoe absolutely fucking kills it. I think that dude was born to be Green Goblin, honestly. Adding to that, Willem Dafoe is just a freaky actor. He is terrifying to watch. Do you remember the first time you watched Spider-Man 1 as like a kid and the Green Goblin was on the screen and you were sort of terrified? You were a little bit tense, you were sort of scared by the bloke. It's basically that exact same feeling. You're tense, you're like fearful, because Willem Dafoe just captures that evil energy so well. There was a scene in this that I'll get into in a second where he is being beaten up and he's just fucking smiling and laughing. And it is like serious, like Heath Ledger Joker vibes. And it was like, I was sweating. I was sweating. I was scared. I felt like I was 6 years old again, like shitting myself. Dr. Octopus, also really good. Alfred Molina, really good as that character. Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, just a fucking cool guy, really. Dude's cracking jokes, you know, talking like Jamie Foxx would talk, and it works surprisingly well. Okay, let's get into the story quickly. So this movie practically kicks off straight after Far From Home. Mysterio has just revealed Peter's identity to the world, and Peter is just trying to escape all the crowds, especially that dude that jumps from the car. He probably had a really sore stomach after that, maybe a few broken ribs. Peter wants to get himself and MJ away from the crowd because they're all clamoring around him, so he goes to Aunt May's apartment, but helicopters and stuff all follow him and they document where he lives and, oh my god, it's Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man, blah blah blah, he's so cool, he's so evil. A tiny bit of time passes and Peter starts going back to school. A lot of people thought this was a courtroom when it wasn't. He was actually just going back to school, and if you have anxiety or social anxiety or anything like that, the scenes where Peter is going back to Midtown High, they're going to be tough to watch. He's being surrounded by students, phones going off, cameras recording, everything like that. it was stressful. I'm not even Spider-Man. There's some really good parts about that scene as well. The teachers from Far From Home are like, yo, man, it's so cool you're Spider-Man. We raise heroes at this school. And then the gym teacher from Homecoming with the Captain America on the TV is just like, yeah, man, you're a murderer. He's like a full-blown conspiracy theorist or something. It's really fun to watch. Peter, Ned, and MJ want to go to MIT, which I believe is a college, but in Australia we call it a university. They get declined because Peter's identity had been revealed as Spider-Man, and that just affects, you know, their personal life, the uni life as well. You can't have villains attacking the uni and stuff like that. So they get declined. I almost forgot, Charlie Cox is in this movie as Matt Murdock. He's in it only briefly. He's not in this movie very much. He's not in it as Daredevil, but there is a glimpse of it. What happens is a brick gets thrown through Aunt May's window and Matt Murdock catches it, and Peter's like, how'd you do that? And then this great line, Matt Murdock goes, I'm just a really good lawyer. The entire cinema I was in pissed themselves laughing. It was brilliant. So what Peter does is he goes to Doctor Strange, hopefully to cast a spell to make the world forget. The spell goes wrong because Peter wants people to remember and everything like that. It's like, bro, just tell them again, all right? It's easy as that. Just tell them again. Obviously, from the trailer, the spell goes a little bit wrong and it's contained in a little box, but the spell didn't go fully wrong, and it actually invites villains from past Spider-Man universes, previous universes, into the MCU universe. So what the spell actually did was, instead of making people forget that he's Spider-Man, it actually invited people that knew he was Spider-Man into Peter's universe, or Tom Holland's universe. Yes, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this movie. Have I said that? I really like, though, that the main reasoning behind Peter going too strange to make the world forget is because it was affecting his personal friend's life. It wasn't him being like, oh, my identity's out there, it's screwing up my life. He went there because it was screwing up Ned and MJ's life rather than his own, and I really like that touch. Doctor Strange then goes on to just say, why don't you just go and talk to a university lecturer or something and just plead your case? And he's like, what? I could do that? All right, I might go do that. From there, Peter goes to find the university lecturer head woman and to plead his case. But please let my friends in. I screwed up. The scene we've all seen 1,000 times on the bridge happens, and Dr. Octopus comes out of nowhere, under the bridge, through the bridge. Crowd erupts, and the first thing he says is, what have you done with my machine? A direct reference to Spider-Man 2 with the power of the sun in the palm of my hands and the machine that went under there. And then a fight breaks out, and it was really fun. This fight is really fun to watch. The action in this movie is top tier. The fight with like the Iron Spider legs and Dr. Octopus's arms, it's like 8 arms fighting each other. It was really fun. There's some great parts in this, but it eventually wraps up with It eventually ends with Peter getting caught by Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus finding out it's not the right Peter. He's like, you're not my Peter. Well, who the bloody hell are you? Tom Holland puts the nanotech technology onto Dr. Octopus's arms and then just starts controlling them. He's got like little pincer hands. He's like, oh, ping, 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 ping. Dr. Octopus is like, hey man, what are you doing to my arms, bro? Listen to me. So with Dr. Octopus disabled, then the Green Goblin just flies in. You hear a laugh, and the crowd I was in, as soon as that laugh hit, everyone just went, oh, even though we all knew he was coming. Green Goblin flies in. The suit looks amazing. I can't get over how good the suit looks. It looks exactly like the one from the 2002 film, but it just looks a lot crisper. He flies in, but as soon as he's about to attack, a portal comes across and then Peter's back in the Sanctum Sanctorum. Strange gives Peter this weapon that like one shot and it'll put them in this like holding cell. So Peter goes out there, he starts taking down villains. The next villain he actually sees is Electro. It is not the Electro you saw in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Jamie Foxx fucking kills it in this movie. He has some of the best lines in the movie, some of the best jokes as well. Just such a laid-back dude. What I'm trying to say there is he's just totally confident. He really likes this world. He senses there's some big power in it compared to the other universe he was in. That's legitimately a plot point, and I think it really works for his character. During this scene as well, Sandman is introduced and he actually helps Peter out by blocking like the electro waves or something, electro blast. He actually stops them. He's like, Peter, it's me, Flint. And then like Tom Holland's like, who? I'm not that guy, you know? The battle between Sandman, Electro, and Spider-Man in this part is really cool. It's in like this dark forest, so the bright yellow lightning bolts really stand out. But this battle ends when Peter just takes all the power lines down so he can't do electric things. And it's like this Terminator scene where like Jamie Foxx is just nude. He's like, yo man, kind of needs some clothes. And then Peter sends him back to the little prison that they're all being kept in. We also get this very Sam Raimi-esque shot of Willem Dafoe talking to the Green Goblin mask. You do not see the old suit for very long. It gets destroyed very quickly. Willem Dafoe, he's not just evil Goblin the whole time. It's balanced. It's like, oh my god, I'm this normal guy, and then I'm going to kill Spider-Man. The one shot I'm talking about, he's looking directly at the Green Goblin mask. The Green Goblin mask is talking to him back through his mind. And it's this like parallel of that movie, and it blew people's minds. Eventually, Norman just fucking grabs a brick or something and just smashes the mask. And then he makes his way to Feast, which is where Aunt May works. Now, Tom Holland throughout this trilogy has been very, you know, he's like the puppy dog. People look after him. He doesn't really do all the work unless he's getting an assist. But in this movie, he sort of branches out from that a little bit. There's this plot where he's like, oh, I care for the villains. I don't want them to go back because they die fighting their own Spider-Man and stuff. When he's fought this massive purple grape man, it seemed like it shouldn't work, but then you think Tom Holland in this movie is a teenager. He's probably not thinking correctly. If I was that character, I would have sent those villains back. No issue, no problem. From there, Norman Osborn makes his way to Feast because he is literally lost. There's lines where he talks about how he doesn't have a son in this universe. He doesn't have a company. He's just this dude who doesn't know what's going on. So he goes to Feast for help, and that's where he meets Aunt May. And then Peter stupidly takes him back to the Sanctum Sanctorum and shows him the prison where everything is. Doctor Strange rocks up, he puts Norman Osborn in one of the cells, and then they talk about how they need some sort of science to like send them back and, you know, they can live and not be killed. And there's this brilliant callback line to the first Spider-Man movie when Willem Dafoe goes, well, I'm something of a scientist myself. It was so good. Now, Peter doesn't want these villains held in the cell. He actually steals this like magical portal box from Doctor Strange, and you see it in the trailer. Gorgeous visuals. They're in the mirror dimension. It looks so good. And then eventually Peter gets the box and releases the villains. Peter then takes all the villains back to Happy's place because they can't be in their own place because they're not safe for the whole identity thing and everything. This is where I had a problem with this movie. What happens next is Tom Holland just begins to help these villains out by upgrading their tech and everything. Like he's not aware that they were villains. I get that he's a teenager, but he's surely not that stupid. He may have a good heart, but realistically, giving villains access to Stark technology is not a good idea for anyone to think about. The contrast to my thought about this, though, is when he helps Dr. Octopus out by putting a chip into the back of his neck. He fixes the old chip up, and it actually frees Dr. Octopus from the arms control, pretty much. And he's his own person. He has this great monologue that his mind is empty, he's free. It's really good. There is a lot of dialogue in this movie that really calls back to other films. Peter then continues to go on to upgrade the other villains' technology and everything. He's also working on a serum for the Green Goblin so he doesn't have the evil side. But obviously this all goes wrong, and this results in potentially my favorite scene of this movie, and this doesn't even include the other two Spider-Men. Green Goblin goes a little bit whack in the head and he fucking goes crazy. And there's this fight scene between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. What? There's this fight scene between Spider-Man and Green Goblin that is brutal. It is so good to watch. It is hard to watch. There is a scene where Tom Holland is just fucking railing the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, and Willem Dafoe is up against the wall laughing and grinning. He's like Heath Ledger, like wide smile, like it's scary. The bit where he's punching him and he's just laughing, oh my god, scary. And this all leads to Aunt May being killed. Green Goblin flies the glider in, hits Aunt May in the back, goes to throw a pumpkin bomb to finish her off. She bleeds to death. And this is where the movie takes a massive turn. I was in my chair sobbing. I was crying. This movie is a roller coaster. With Aunt May's death, I feel like a lot of people are going to be thrown off by it purely by execution, but I think it works really well because the way she's dying, she's bleeding out, she's in shock, she thinks she's okay. She doesn't know she's going to die, but Peter can tell. And it's this great contrast. Obviously, it leads to Aunt May dying and Peter obviously being very upset. Let's talk about the big reveals. Ned has access to a sling ring. He's fucking around with it, pretending to be a magician. It eventually opens one. He keeps doing it, and then they go, we need to find Peter Parker. So he's slinging the ring around. It opens a portal. There's Spider-Man in an alley down there. From a distance, you wouldn't pick it. The character turns around, runs towards the portal, and you instantly recognize the big eyes, the big suit, and it's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The big eyes, everything. He jumps through the portal, and Ned and MJ are just like, you're not the one we're after. I think Andrew Garfield is the standout Spider-Man in this movie. In my personal opinion, I think he's the best Spider-Man in this movie, and it really makes me want to see more of him. He's so charismatic, he's so energetic. There's this great scene where he has to prove he's Peter, and he just attaches himself to a roof. He crawls along the roof to clean up cobwebs. He is Spider-Man. Well, they all are, but he is a good Spider-Man. They all are as well. So the spell went wrong, and they try again. Ned does his little sling ring. He goes, oh, we need to find Peter Parker. Opens up. A shadowy figure walks out. It's Tobey Maguire. The crowd between the Andrew Garfield reveal and the Tobey Maguire reveal went fucking ballistic. There was clapping, there was woo-hoo-hoo, it was loud. And I had a really good crowd. It wasn't loud the whole time, but those two reveals, they hit the peak decibels. There's a really small battle between Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Eventually, Tobey Maguire wins by webbing his wrists. It's fun. This scene is then followed up by potentially one of my favorite MCU scenes, where Tom Holland's Peter Parker is sitting on a roof. He's very upset, visibly upset. And then MJ and Ned rock up and they're like, we've got someone to see you. And there's this shot, very Batman-esque, of the two Spider-Men. And they jump down, they comfort Peter. But they're unsure at first. And this is what I mean when I say it's one of my favorite scenes. There's some dialogue in this that's really good. For example, Tom Holland's Peter has just lost Aunt May. There's this line where Andrew Garfield goes to say, I know what it feels. And Tom Holland cuts him off. He's like, no, you don't get it. And then it cuts back to this shot of Andrew Garfield standing there. You can tell he's thinking about Gwen. He's teary a little bit. And he's like, okay, he just steps back. They talk about the Uncle Bens of their universe and the whole great power comes great responsibility. And it's just a really, really beautiful scene. And they eventually come to a conclusion. We need to make an antidote to stop the villains and cure them. I was crying the entire time. I was excited. I was happy tears. I was sad tears. Everything. And then this leads to another scene where they're in a science lab working on a cure for the villains. And they're all talking about their Spider-Man, universes and stuff. And it's just really good. They essentially do that meme where the Spider-Men point at each other, but Ned calls out Peter and they all look and they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, that's right. There's also this really good scene. You think it's going to be played up for a joke, but Ned goes up to Tobey Maguire. He's like, do you have a best friend? And then Tobey Maguire goes, yeah, I did. He talks about Harry Osborn and the whole Spider-Man 3, he tried to kill him and everything like that. And you think it's going to be played out for a joke, but it isn't. I really appreciate that. And that's what I mean when I say there's fan service, but it's not just fan service for being fan service. It's actually beneficial to the story. And it works really, really well in this one. In all honesty, I could talk about this movie for hours on end. All the Spider-Man stuff, all the three Spider-Man stuff is really good. I could talk about any of it for hours. All the three Spider-Man do an insane job at their job. But I do personally think Andrew Garfield was the more fun one to watch. They're all very different in their own ways. Tom Holland's the young, unexperienced, trying to learn type. Tobey Maguire's the been there, done that, I have all the experience, but a little bit stale type. And Andrew Garfield is the charismatic, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. I have cool looking hair. Let's do a job. Let's talk about the climax of this movie. It is at the Statue of Liberty that has been revamped and actually looks a bit like this. Pretend I'm a bit taller and made of concrete. Tom Holland's Peter Parker basically sends a message out to all the villains saying, hey guys, I got this magical box that can send you back to your universes and kill you. If you want it, come and get it. Obviously, this leads to the villains rocking up. Before that, there's this scene of the three Spider-Man talking to each other about their universes, how their webs work, how Tobey's able to shoot it out of his wrist. Tom Holland has this great line where he goes, if you're able to shoot that stuff out of your wrist organically, does it come out of other holes? There's also a really good callback when Tobey Maguire's like bending his back on the pipe. He's like trying to fix his back because it's sore. And then Andrew Garfield's like, yo man, you got a sore back? And Tobey Maguire's like, yeah man, just, all the swinging and everything. And Andrew Garfield's like, you want me to crack your back for you? And they're like hugging and Andrew Garfield's like cracking his back for him. It's really good. I think the final battle of this movie has some of my favorite individual scenes in it as well. It has all the villains, has all the Spider-Man. Seeing 3 Spider-Man in action fighting against the villains is fucking awesome. I want to see it again already. One of the other lines is they don't really know how to work together as a team, but they have to so they can cure the villains. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are like, we have never worked in a team. We're going to be horrible together. And Tom Holland's like, yo, all right, listen up. I've been in a team. It's called the Avengers. Tobey Maguire goes, that's great! What is that? And then Andrew Garfield's like, yo, is that a band? Are you in a band? Really good separation from the MCU stuff to like the original different universe stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. The whole crowd enjoyed it. Very fun. The final battle of this movie also has some really, really good callbacks. I think I mentioned it before, but there is some great references. One of them is the battle between Electro and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. It's like, yo, dude, you used to be my friend. What's my new look? Do you like it? Another one is between Sandman and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. There's some great talk between those two because obviously they ended up being friends by the end of Spider-Man 3. The scene that I'm about to talk about right now, I think actually got the biggest yell and cheer and clapping from the audience that I had. In the trailer, you see MJ fall off the side of the scaffolding and, someone's going to jump for her. It turns out it's Tom Holland, but when he goes to grab her, the Green Goblin flies past, grabs him, and then she's still falling. Andrew Garfield notices this, yells, jumps off the side, and goes to catch her. He catches her, lands, and then everyone in the cinema went nuts at this. It got a louder cheer than anything else in the movie. The scene is obviously a callback to The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and very reminiscent when MJ is caught and they're on the ground and Andrew Garfield actually looks at MJ and says, are you okay? And his eyes are tearing and the shot is framed exactly the same way as Gwen Stacy and Andrew Garfield's shot was. And Andrew Garfield looking at her all teary-eyed because he saved her. And MJ actually asked back, are you okay? And he goes, yeah. And I bawled like a baby. I'm such a little bitch. To me, that scene was everything that I wanted it to be. I don't think they could have pulled that scene off any differently and it have been as good as the way they did it, if that makes sense. Anyways, all the villains basically get cured. Dr. Octopus helps out and tames Electro, puts him down a few watts. There's only one villain left that isn't cured. It's Green Goblin. There's this awesome but really dark fight between Tom Holland and the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. It's very brutal. You think Tom Holland's about to kill the Green Goblin, but then Tobey Maguire just jumps in, stops the glider from impaling Willem Dafoe again. Tom Holland has it. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you! And goes to do it, and Tobey Maguire's like, no! It's a very reminiscent shot of Captain America stopping the Infinity Gauntlet that Thanos had on. It's very similar to that shot. So this all goes to plan until the Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire, and I fucking screamed. No one else in my cinema gasped or screamed. I screamed. I was the only one. Tobey Maguire doesn't die, by the way. He doesn't die. Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, they go back to their own universes. Same with all the villains. But I fucking thought they were going to kill Tobey Maguire in this part, and I was ready to fight. John Watts, I would have came for you. What I'm trying to say there is, Tobey Maguire doesn't die, though my heart for a second thought he was about to. The ending of this film, all the villains get sent back to their universes. Doctor Strange arrived at some point and did all his magic stuff. The way this movie ends is sadder than you would expect. This is why I came home and I looked dead. I was upset. This movie ends with essentially the entire world forgetting who Peter Parker is, forgetting who Spider-Man is, and Tom Holland having no connections, no friends, nothing, no family members. It was sad. Tom Holland asked Doctor Strange to just make the whole world forget, and that's how it will get fixed up, because the world's literally breaking apart at this point. Doctor Strange does the spell. You can tell in this scene as well that Doctor Strange is like, oh, I just really started to like you, kid. And I'm gonna be really upset that I forget who you are. But the ending plays out. He kisses MJ, says bye to Ned and everything, and then everyone just forgets. And he just moves. He gets a rental place, he moves, and that's it. The thing I really, really, really dug about the ending being the way it was is there is no connection to Stark Tech. There is nothing like that anymore. He doesn't have that sort of connection that everyone was so judgmental about for the past couple of movies. He has none of that. He's his own Spider-Man now. This movie ends pretty much, and it feels like it's the beginning for Spider-Man, if that makes sense. In a weird way, this movie's ending feels like just the beginning for Spider-Man. He's in a new place. He has a new suit that he's made himself. No technology involved or anything, I don't think. And it really sets it up for the next couple of movies, which I think have already been confirmed. One of the last shots is Peter going to approach MJ to try to make her remember who he is, but he can see that Ned and MJ are like really, really good friends. Me and my fiance actually thought they were dating in the specific shot they had. Peter doesn't follow through with it and he just gets a coffee or something instead and then leaves. Bruh, this is heartbreaking. You know, he only just secured the bag and now he's lost it completely. Final shot of this movie is like Tom Holland has a new suit that he's made. It's blue, it's red. It looks very classic. It's very shiny and he like swings into the camera and that's how it ends. But I'm really, really, really excited for the next Spider-Man stuff. It's actually made me really excited for Spider-Man 4 whenever that is, probably in like 5 years. But yeah, that's how the movie ends. The villains all get sent back to their own places. They've all been cured, but now they won't die at the hands of Spider-Man. They go on and live their own lives, which I feel like creates a paradox or something of some sort. If Green Goblin goes back to his universe in Spider-Man 1 when he was about to be killed but doesn't get killed, does that mean Spider-Man 3 with Harry doesn't happen? Or am I thinking about this too much? I feel like I am. Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, they all get sent back to their own universes. I would love to see other projects with them, but I feel like Tobey Maguire is too old now. He looks very old in this movie. He looks like Uncle Ben. I would absolutely love to see another project with Andrew Garfield. He has the charisma of Peter Parker. He is a great Peter Parker and a great Spider-Man, and I think this movie really, really sold me on that. Now, let's very quickly talk about the post-credits scene. It's Venom. He's in a bar, he's learning about Iron Man, he's learning about Hulk, everything like that, and then all of a sudden, you know, Doctor Strange's spell works again, and Venom gets sent back to the Sonyverse. But part of the symbiote is left in the MCU, so who knows what that means? Does Peter get that eventually later on? Is there going to be a symbiote saga? I have no clue. It's made me very excited. But then the second post-credit scene wasn't even a scene. It's literally the trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So Doctor Strange 2. It looks good. I don't think I have time to talk about it now. But yeah, it was... Basically, God bless Elizabeth Olsen. Please send me a DM when you can. That's what I thought about the trailer. I cannot wait to see that movie. Apparently, it's going to be very horror-esque. It's directed by Sam Raimi, the original Spider-Man trilogy director. So I'm all aboard. Anyways, that has been my spoiler discussion of No Way Home. I fucking love this movie. I think it's up there with Spider-Man 2. It's one of the greatest movies I've ever watched. And I think it's actually going to become a classic. You know, it made the original Tobey Maguire movies canon. It made the Andrew Garfield movies canon. All of those movies work together in tangent in this one. Everything about it's perfect. The villains were top-notch. The heroes were top-notch. Seeing all three Spider-Man on the big screen together just made my child heart just fucking blow. It also felt really, really, really well-paced. It didn't feel boring at any point. It all felt necessary to the plot. If there's anything I can say that will sell you on going to go see this movie, it's that my fiance told me that she has never seen me like this in a movie ever before. And she went to see Endgame with me. That's how good this movie is. I'm going to see it again. Anyways, that is my spoiler discussion for No Way Home. I will do a movie commentary on this movie when it releases digitally about halfway through next year, so I will cover that. But I would love to thank you so much if you joined me throughout all the Spider-Man movies that I covered. If you haven't and you want to watch movie commentaries, I have a playlist here or wherever it will be. Thank you so much for the journey. It's been a great time. I have other franchises I need to attend to now because people won't leave me alone. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Leave a big like or a little like depending on your thumb size. Subscribe if you haven't already. I got a ton more videos on the way. Consider supporting me on Patreon if you haven't already. It really does help me out. And I will see you all the next time that I see you, which is when I'll see you. And, you know, thank you for commenting and saying that I look beautiful today. I did not feel like that this morning.